Greetings, beloveds. We would like to invite you today to visit our Sanctuary of Divine Mother. This is the website online, divinemother.love. And if you've wanted some companionship on your path of Divine Mother, this is the place to go to start to create some connections. We were talking this morning about dancing.
Yeah.
And when we think of dancing with life or with Divine Mother, to me, that has such a sense of freedom. I mean, I feel really good today with that idea in my head because it has that sense of freedom, but a freedom that is creative, expressive, and vibrant.
Well, it's difficult to dance when you're afraid or when you feel as though you're being watched in a judgmental sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
So when we can actually dance and you get to experience that dancing that you do when you're a kid or when you don't think anyone is around, dance like no one is watching. And that's the feeling that I think I get when I think of dancing with Divine Mother and that she is playing this beautiful symphony that is my life and I can dance through it. And that is a definitely different feeling than, okay, bills need to be paid, maybe this health issue is going on, or, I need to take care of this, this, and this. It's hard to feel as though you can dance through that. But I think if you shift the way that you have a relationship and perception of the world, you can come to a place where all of that can just be dancing. And that kind of freedom it's like a weightless feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Zen saying, isn't there? The whinny of a pack horse, unloaded of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is transformative because if we think about it, we live in a culture, in a world, and this goes for both our secular world and our spiritual world, that tends to be built upon constraints, the opposite of freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So our world, this is all debt based.
Yeah.
We talked about paying the bills. Every month there's bills to pay. We maybe get into credit card debt. Things are expensive. Medical care is expensive.
How about just debt between people? Okay,
Oh,
that's a really, really hard one. When somebody says, sure, I'll help you with this. And then afterwards, there's that feeling of, well, I helped you with that. So now you owe me. And I think there's a lot of IOUs, not just with mortgage companies and credit card companies, but between our relationships, our bosses, our coworkers, our siblings, our spouses, our parents, our children, so much debt. And that is definitely
yes.
the law of our culture, the rule of our culture is we need to somehow be even. And I don't know, that's maybe something to talk about another time, but the idea of fairness often equates with the idea of everything should be even. And yet, I think one of the principles that holds true for freedom is that every situation is its own situation with its own set of parameters. And two situations can look almost entirely the same, yet the rules they don't apply the same way to both of them. And that's what is so challenging, is that we put boxes of rules or expectations of behavior, etc., that we can't seem to break out of when really life doesn't follow that.
Life's very organic and messy. Yeah.
It's like this. Woo.
But this is so true that we have this exterior culture that does this, but then we integrate this into all of our relationships, and our basic way of looking at the world tends to start to become based on this little weight on either side. And sometimes we can feel like there's no other way to see the world because our cultural paradigms can be so strong when we've lived with them our whole lives that there can be no other concept. Of course, we have to have debt. Otherwise, you'll have people that will just take. And you'll have people that are blood dry trying to give.
Well, that happens anyway. Like, our rules and laws or whatever we've created are not necessarily really helping us.
Let's examine that, because go ahead.
Well, so the other thing that I just wanted to say is that this can easily be applied to our spiritual freedom as well, in terms of a lot of religions and different paths have rules in them. And it's the same thing. The rules, you have to look at them carefully, because sometimes they don't fit every situation. And sometimes rules can make you feel good, like, okay, I know what I'm doing. But a lot of the times, I think they just hold you back from that dancing sense of freedom.
Yeah. I mean, so we have our dominant religion of Christianity, which has a lot of rules in it. And as we look at those rules, and I would say, argue that pretty much all the major religions are filled with a lot of rules. When we look at those rules, they create and reinforce that sense of debt. They say that not only is that sense of debt just something we humans have created, but it is a divine thing, this idea of debt and this idea of rules and constraints. Now, this differs very much from the idea that, for instance, we could just gift to each other.
Mm-hmm.
In the laws and rules that we live by, even something as wonderful as the golden rule, there's an implicit assumption in that. And that is that you are not a good person. You are not going to do what's right. So I need to tell you what's right via a rule. And we can kind of see the mess that gets us into. Do the rules work? We hear all the time about leaders of big religious congregations that are doing stuff very, very against those rules. And again, that's through many religions that we see that going on. And of course, we have many, many laws and rules in our world. So many that sometimes we break one without even knowing we've done anything wrong.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that was a law.
And we live under the assumption that probably the world would be complete chaos unless we had those rules in place. And those rules are barely keeping negative human nature in check.
It almost seems like there's this saying, innocent until proven guilty. And to me, I almost feel as though things have shifted to kind of, well, why don't you prove that you are, it's kind of a prove that you're innocent, not, hey, we're going to assume that you were doing the right thing. I don't know. And that's not even necessarily our culture, but sometimes in between interactions of different people. And I felt it in myself. If I come in and one of my children is, there's flour all over the counter, and, I've said, we've got guests coming, what are you doing? I'm immediately somehow, my ego sense is going, oh, they were trying to, we assume that someone is doing something wrong when there might be a whole different story. It might be, oh, grandma and grandpa are coming and I wanted to make them a cake. And, maybe sure there was still going outside of what was expected, but we don't, it just seems like we don't have the benefit of the doubt. And that's what I think the Divine Mother always gives us, is the benefit of the doubt. Because we have rules that we apply to other people, but we don't apply them to ourselves. So if you do something wrong, I'm thinking, wow, what is wrong with Kenton? I mean, oh my gosh. But if I do something wrong, I say like, oh, but I was having a hard day and then this happened and so then that happened, and I know within me. But why do I not assume that that's the same for someone else?
So you look at yourself and you recognize that there's an organic messiness, unless we're a person that self-punishes. We might flip-flop this depending on our personality and be harder on ourselves than we are on other people. But whether it's ourselves or another, we might look and say, okay, yeah, I recognize the world's messy. All kinds of things could have happened that led up to this negative behavior that I'm observing in them. But why don't we apply that across the board? This is pervasive. I think of that old idea of teach tolerance. And this was put forth as the best thing we can do in a way, is to teach tolerance. So if I have pink skin and I'm called white, and
No, why aren't we pinkies?
I know. And then there's a person that has more of a chocolate skin and they're black. I can't just see them as someone that is a fellow human being on the planet. I have to tolerate them if they have sexual differences than me, if they have other religious differences. We teach tolerance, which fits very neatly into this rule-bound, debt-bound idea of there's no such thing as a natural outflow.
Excuse me.
Natural outflow of love, natural outflow of compassion in connection with the world. This is where the message of Divine Mother is totally different, because Divine Mother is not imposing any rules on us. And when we say that, wow, that can throw up some big flags here.
Yeah. What do you mean? Then won't everybody just turn into, raving, greedy lunatics or something? But I guess I'm going to ask you, would you do that? For example, in our culture, if all the rules were off tomorrow, are you just going to go walking into your neighbor's house and take whatever you want? And you're just going to, go down to the local coffee shop and just like start smashing things? I mean,
so inside of yourself, what you're pointing to here is you can feel that innate goodness. And so what a difference when we adopt a spirituality where the spirituality is saying, there's no constraints here. There's no rules. I want you to be guided by your heart. And that's going to change over time.
Yeah.
Right? If I start on my path of Divine Mother right now, and I'm not really feeling the love, and I feel a lot of kind of fear, that fear is going to invoke a lot of what we call negative behavior, right? So I'm going to be more greedy. I'm going to...
fear of not enough.
Yeah. I'm going to maybe be mean to other people. I'm not going to be compassionate.
Right. There's so much fear behind all of that.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different topic, is fear and how to deal with fear. But the point is that Divine Mother is going to meet us, and she's going to give us opportunities to learn and to grow.
And say you're loved right now.
Yeah.
The way you are. Right?
Well, have you never made a mistake?
Okay.
I mean, have you never made a mistake that you feel... I can think of a few things in my life where I think, oh my gosh, and it's not, I don't live my life by regret. So it's not like that, but it's just this kind of, I can't believe that was me.
Yeah.
How did I do that? How could I ever have been that way? And for Divine Mother, she goes, hey, look, honey, we all have sides of ourselves that are not the best. And instead of just trying to hide all of that, we can acknowledge that, because that allows us to acknowledge it in others, and it allows for self-forgiveness. It allows for introspection and growth. What can I learn from that? And then we can also understand you can only know what you know right now. So if you're this person starting off right now and you're kind of, I don't know, and you do some things, you aren't to a higher place on this spiral of adventure. You're where you are. And until you have those experiences and learn and grow through them, you can't, know what you don't know, right? So you've got to be a little loving of yourself while at the same time also being really self-honest.
The Divine Mother is saying, let's join up together. I'll meet you where you are, and let's walk together and start this adventure. Not, let's walk together and here is where you are going to put your feet. Gall darn it.
And if you don't do this, and this, then I'm out of here.
So this is an unconditional love. This is that bhakti, that unconditional love that meets you wherever you are. If you are you have a criminal past, you've done things that you aren't proud of, you're doing something right now that you're not proud of. She's meeting you there and saying, it's okay, you're loved as you are. And that love can be so transformative, because the only way we're going to make real change in ourselves, in our culture, anywhere, is to change our hearts. As long as I'm just tolerating the people around me, that are different than I am,
Mm-hmm.
there's always going to be that tension.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it. We've had progress, but there is in our culture still so much tension between people who have arguably very minor differences. The color of skin, the ideas about this or that. And we use those as these divisions because we've been immersed in that idea of tolerance, of debt, of fear. When we are immersed in that unadulterated, unconditional love, then we start to see things differently. Because when I'm loved completely, I'm set free.
Mm-hmm. Total freedom.
And the things inside of me that get set free are goodness. As we are loved that way, we start to want to love that way in return.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts to dissolve the fears and the negative behaviors that go along with those fears. And it starts to rise and blossom like a lotus, the love inside of us. And as that opens up, our behavior is going to naturally change. It's going to start to become unthinkable to do unkind things to other people. Just because of that love that flows up inside of us. We don't have to try to obey a rule.
Right.
The behavior comes naturally out of that dance of freedom.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of our great literature and a lot of really good movies or stories contain this kernel of wisdom. And so, you can see this in action in places where in the end of a story, the character triumphs not by, slaying the whatever, but by total opening and vulnerability, or by choosing the thing. Those are the movies that really get us because we go, or the stories or the books, because we go, wow, that person came straight from love. And we can recognize it. We know it. We know what it feels like. And I think we can see through things so clearly. We're very, very adept at reading body language and tone of voice. And we know in our hearts, but we get covered by this cultural goo that sticks all over us, and it's this sludge that eventually weighs us down and we can no longer see. And by reaching out and saying, okay, Divine Mother, come and love me. Let me feel it. Please just, fill me up. Let me have even some amount of love that you have. We start to remove that goo. We start to see through it, and the lightness of being that comes from that is so satisfying. And the more that you are able to open yourself and you feel love and you feel joy, the freer you become. And that freedom is, if I don't even know how to explain, but I'm sure we all can have, we've all had the thing where you're like, oh my gosh, something's going to happen. And then it doesn't happen and you're off the hook. The relief and what you can do when you come from that place in your heart that feels free. And I think that's where miracles happen. That's where people reach out and do things that make you go, yeah, humanity rocks. Yeah.
How do we feel that love? Because, we can sit here and we're immersed in our fears and our sense of debt and our clenching against life. It can be really difficult from that place to even imagine that kind of love exists. And just like with a human, you can love me as much as I want, as much as you want, but if I am filled with fear, if I'm convinced you can't love me or don't love me,
that you're unlovable,
then that love is going to sort of bounce off. It's not going to impregnate me and give birth to something beautiful. And so we have to start to open ourselves to love. And a way to do this is, you can have some private time. You can lay down in bed right before you're going to go to sleep or when you wake up in the morning. And you can imagine Divine Mother in whatever guise you want to imagine. And you can just imagine walking up to her and her taking you into her arms and just holding you. and just holding you like you are completely deserving of that. You brought up the other day, if any of us found a little baby animal and we were going to take care of it, we would love it in this way. If it bit us, we wouldn't be, oh, bad animal. We'd be, oh, you must be so scared. And we'd wipe away the blood and go, you poor little critter. You're right here with me. I'm going to hold you and love you and make sure you're well and you can grow up strong.
Mm-hmm.
And we would love in that sort of just outpouring way. And Divine Mother isn't poor you, but she also is more honoring, right? So she's going to hold you in a way that says, I honor your strength, but also I'm just here for you and I'm holding you. And if you just imagine that, what you're actually doing is you're opening yourself up to that idea that you're worthy of love, that you are lovable, that it's okay to accept being unconditionally loved, no matter what you did in the past or what you're doing now. And when we open ourselves up to that, then it starts to plant seeds inside of us. It starts to become real and we start to feel it. It takes some time, especially if we're really armored up.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to let the walls down to someone. And if it feels uncomfortable, the way through, I think, is to practice and to continue to explore with curiosity. When are the times that I have felt most loved or do feel most loved in my life? Just for me, not for the things I do. I struggle with this because I really have often equated my value with how much I do for other people. I think it's a very common thing for many people, but I think a lot for women who are in a mothering role, that you want to provide for people, you want to make their life good, and that is what your worth is based on. Yeah. But for Divine Mother, there isn't a worth. Everyone is worthless. But what I mean is that you have no value. That's something they talk about in the Bible, the pearl of, of worthlessness. That's not how they put it. But it's so great that you could never put a price tag on it. There is no price tag. And so, yes. And what it is saying is, get rid of debt. Get rid of this idea that you have to do anything or be anything. And if you can come to that place, just try to find where you can feel that what are the ways you feel most loved, and the ways you love yourself the most, not for what you do, but just for the things, that you
are.
Right.
And that's, again, almost a foreign concept. I mean, if I say to you, you are loved just as you are, just for being you, not for doing any tasks, not for accomplishing anything great or small, not for treating people well. You're just loved just for being. Hey, that's a hard thing for some of us to grasp.
It's so hard. I struggled with low self-esteem a lot. And I think to feel that you are deserving, I still struggle with that, because I feel that cultural goo that says you can't be deserving if you don't earn it.
Yeah.
And there's no earning Divine Mother's love. It's just a gift. And we're given it, we're given it the day that we're born. Babies don't do anything. The first day they're here, they poop, they cry, they, spit up on you. But as a parent, you love your child,
Yeah.
Just because they're there. Because there's this beautiful thing that gets this opportunity to experience the world. And Divine Mother's love is a difficult thing to put into words, because it gets experienced so differently, even just by an individual, multiple different ways. And so I think the best thing to do is just practice self-love, practice allowing Divine Mother's love to come in, practice affirmations that say, I am lovable just how I am. And that's the first place, is just to really try to
recondition that. Right?
Yeah.
That idea that your value comes from something you do or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's very difficult because we are going against all those rules, all those laws, all those requirements of our culture. But to step outside of that, it's so liberating. And the best thing is that by doing that, you do serve other people. You are giving to other people because you begin to show them, hey, it's okay. I mean, what could be more powerful than someone just sitting down and going, hey, I know you might feel like you're not loved. Hey, maybe you've committed these crimes, or you've had an affair on your spouse, or you've done this, that, or the other thing. And I'm here to tell you that doesn't matter. I've done things too. What person, hasn't, by the time they reach whatever age, hasn't done something that isn't in accordance with their highest selves? All of us. No one that I have ever met has lived by their highest standards their whole entire life. And in some ways, I think that's a gift. It could be seen as a gift. Your shortcomings or whatever it is that you are feeling shameful or regretful about, if you could for a moment see them as a gift, in that they give you compassion, they give you understanding. If you just had a wonderful life and you fit in with everybody and you never did anything wrong, in some ways, we connect to each other in humanity with each other because we have similarities, because we have the same joys, because we all want to be loved. We all want the people we love to be safe. And because we've all done things that we are ashamed of. And that, in that way, you're a gift, Go out and bear witness to other people who have had similar things, and they're going to feel, imagine what it would feel like for you if you're there and you're thinking, oh my gosh, and someone comes up and they go, hey, here's all the things I've done, and I'm here with you to tell you. How warming that is.
Yeah.
To know, oh my gosh, this is okay. And here's another person. I'm not alone. And with Divine Mother, you're never alone. And that's one of the reasons too why we're so excited about the community that we have, because we can come together. We don't have to tolerate each other. We can love each other, and we can examine the things that we struggle with tolerating and find the lesson in it.
This is we have a chat room. So if you go to the website, again, divinemother.love, you'll find a way to get involved with that community. And that's the idea of that community, that gathering, that circle of people who can start to support each other in this way. And again, it'll be an unfolding, a development, but the fruits of it are amazing. A lot of you might be watching and saying, but I want to be a good person. I don't want to just be able to do everything that I want to do. I want to be a good person. I don't want to be that person that looks back and is ashamed, like you say, of the things I've done. And you've probably tried to do that with rules and constraints, and it probably hasn't worked because, again, many of the negative, I'll say almost all of the negative behaviors that we have come out of the tangle of those constraints and the fear that they cause. So as we fall deeper and deeper in love with Divine Mother, as we allow that love in, and as we start to then naturally fall in love with the world that she is all around us, because she's not just creating the world, she is the world. She's every person we see, everything we interact with, every thought we have. And we start to fall in love with her in the world, then we behave differently towards them again, naturally.
Without having to try.
It's the swiftest route to becoming a better person.
Totally. Don't try to be a better person. Just love yourself, invite Divine Mother to love you, and then let that flow out to other people. The thing is, no matter who you are or what you've done, you always have a choice. Even if you're in a situation where there's no choice, you have a choice. You always do. You have a choice to decide what you want to think about the things you're experiencing. Do you come from love? Are you honest with yourself? Do you let Divine Mother's love and wisdom flow into you? What route do you want to take? And sometimes you're not going to make a choice you like, but you can always change your mind. You always have the choice what you want to think, who you want to live your life as. In every moment, you get to pick, how do I want to go forward? And when you have Divine Mother's love and you have her on your team, it's much easier if you listen to your heart to know the way forward.
Recognize as you walk this path that most of us are wearing a lot of armor. And it takes time to shed that armor piece by piece by piece. So you may start walking this path and thinking, oh, I feel filled with love. And then you do something super nasty to somebody. And it's not that we can't look back and reflect and say, wow, I could have really done differently. In fact, maybe I can go back and reapproach that person and remedy some of what happened there. But we don't have to engage in the self-punishment. That's different when we start flogging ourselves for what we've done wrong. And that, again, reinforces that rule-based behavior. It doesn't say, look, I was confused, I was under stressors, and I made a terrible decision. And I wasn't feeling open, and I was feeling fearful at that time. And look what came out of me. And that, just recognizing that, stepping back and looking at it, helps us to see, oh, yeah, here's where that armor was making me behave in a really constrained way. And I can then be inspired to remove a little bit more of that armor, because none of us want to behave in those ways. And so there's this natural unfoldment over time, but we can get bogged down into self-punishment, where we say, see, I'm trying to open myself to love, and then I did this terrible thing. Divine Mother couldn't even love me through this.
And then there's a lot of people, I think, who say, well, I've already done that. I'm done. I can never be redeemed. So screw it. I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep whatever. I'm so condemned that I'm just going to continue on forging along this path.
Yeah.
Guys, flowers grow in pavement. Okay.
Nice.
I mean, seriously, we may have armor, we may have goo, but look at nature. Nature is just Divine Mother's teacher for us. Think about where things grow. Think about how life continues. We can be that way too. Just make one little crack in your armor, and then, hey,
let things grow.
Yeah. So we don't have to let the things we have done, or even the ways that we perceive things, be our defining characteristics. We can move everything around. We can reorganize. If you had a room, you don't have to keep your furniture where it is forever. So rearrange who you are, rearrange what you think, explore, have a little fun with it, and know that you can change your mind.
Powerful.
Yeah. And I think that's a way to finally enter onto the path of freedom. Spiritual freedom, where you don't feel that you have to be confined by what a religion tells you have to do, and you can find the answers within yourself, because we all know instinctively what feels right and loving. And I think it's just letting the voices clear away. And also the path to cultural freedom. If more and more and more of us say, you know what, we're not gonna subscribe to this debt idea, or we're not gonna believe this or believe that. We choose to walk this path, then we create a new path. As we walk a path of our highest good and of love and of Divine Mother, we show others, hey, there is this other way, and we can invite others to walk in their own way. We all have a different walk. We all have a different way of being in the world, and we can all go together and add variety and diversity, but we can make a new way. And it just starts with ourselves, and then we become sort of a beacon, and other people start to see, and then they go, hey, if they can, I can. And so it's just so magical.
So if we don't get to chat with you in the sanctuary, Thank you. So if we don't get to chat with you in the sanctuary, then we will see you next week for our next message from Divine Mother. And, well,
Yeah, but let's start some conversations about
let's do it.
love and about freedom and about new ways forward. It's just everybody has something to share, something that comes just from them that's totally unique and valuable. And you are loved.
We love you. Divine Mother does too. And we will talk with you soon.